hardly broken. Madeleine went on: "It's nothing. But my mare..." He had dismounted, and with a look of distress showed me his horse's blood-stained thigh. Attraction was the name of his pretty and delicate little grey mare, which he loved and cared for passionately. A bullet had pierced her right thigh through, and the blood had flowed down her leg. I calmed him by saying: "Come, come, it will be nothing. Go on foot behind that wood and get quietly under the cover with Lemaître. I will soon come and join you." And I went off with Vercherin, Finet and Wattrelot. I tried to get round to the right of Courgivault, but now that the first shots had been fired we were not allowed to come nearer. As soon as we approached, a violent fusillade burst from the outskirts of the village, which forced us to beat a rapid retreat. There was no longer any doubt about it. Courgivault was occupied, and occupied in strength. Under the shelter of a bank I quickly dismounted, and Wattrelot took my horse's bridle. While I knelt on one knee and with the other wrote my report for the Colonel, Vercherin and Finet, at an interval of 100 yards, kept a good look out on the ridge for the enemy's movements. I handed my message to Wattrelot: "Take this to the Colonel, and quickly. I'll wait here for the brigade." I then rode slowly to the corner of the wood, where Madeleine and Lemaître were posted, whilst Wattrelot went off at a trot across the stubble. But a sad sight was awaiting me. Lemaître was standing in grief over poor Ramier, lying inert on the ground and struggling feebly with death. His eyes were already dull and his legs convulsed. Every now and then he shuddered violently. I looked at Lemaître, who felt as if he were losing his best friend. And indeed, is not our horse our best friend when we are campaigning? The friend that serves us to the very last, that saves us time and again from death, and carries us until he can carry us no longer? I dismounted and threw the reins to Lemaître. "My good fellow, it is a fine end for your Ramier. He might, like so many others, have died worn out with work or suffering under some hedgerow. He has a soldier's death. All we can do is to cut short his sufferings and send him quickly to rejoin his many good comrades in the paradise of noble animals, for they have their paradise, I am sure." But Lemaître hardly seemed convinced. He shook his head sadly and said: "Oh, mon Lieutenant, I shall never be able to replace him. Such a good animal, such a fine creature. He jumped so well. And his coat was always so beautiful. He was so sleek and so easy to keep. No, I shall never find another like him." "Oh, yes, you will." However, I must confess my hand trembled as I drew my revolver. One horse the less in a troop is somewhat the same as one child the less in a family. And besides, it means one trooper unmounted and the loss of a sword in battle. Lemaître was right. Ramier was a good old servant, one of the kind that never goes lame, can feed on anything or on nothing, and never hurts anybody. It was hard to put an end to him, but since he was done for... I put the muzzle of my revolver into his ear. I did not wish him to feel the cold metal, but his whole body shuddered, and his eye, lighting up for a moment, seemed to reproach me. Paf! A short, sharp report, and Ramier quivered for a moment. Then his sufferings ceased, and his stiffening carcass added one more to the many that strewed the country. Whilst Lemaître slung his heavy package on his shoulders and went off to return to the regiment with Corporal Madeleine, who was leading attraction, I went back over to my observation post, not far from Finet and Vercherin. Silence and gloom still hung over Courgivault. Suddenly, behind me, coming out of the wood, I saw a cavalry troop in extended order riding in our direction. They were the Chasseurs d'Afrique. I recognised them by the large number of white horses, which made light patches upon the dark green of the thicket, and almost at the same moment a dull report resounded in the distance. A curious humming noise was heard above our heads, and a shell fell and burst at the foot of the stacks in the possession of the Prussian infantry. It came from one of our batteries of 75mm guns, which was already getting the range of Courgivault. My message had reached the Colonel. The Battle of the Marne had begun. Under a superbly clear sky, lit up by the myriads of stars, the brigade, in a high state of delight, crossed the battlefield on returning to camp. Above our heads the last shells sent by the enemy were bursting in bouquets of fire. We paid no attention to them. Meeting some battalions of infantry on their way to reinforce the line, We were asked for news, and shouted: "Courgivault, Montceau, taken, lost, then retaken with the bayonet by the brave infantry of the M. Division. Enemy's regiments annihilated by our artillery, which has done magnificently." Little by little the firing had died away along the whole line. Fires, started by the shells, lit up the battlefield on every side, like torches set ablaze for our glory. All hearts were filled with joy. It hovered over the blood-stained country, from which arose a kind of intoxication that took possession of our souls. How splendid is the evening of a first victory! End of chapter 3. Recording by F.N.H. Visit www.bookranger.co.uk